Hi everyone, I hope you are all doing well. I'm going to go through my leadership style with you all. So a little bit about me. I grew up in Southern California, in San Diego, and then I moved to the Pacific Northwest a couple years ago, and I don't mind the rain. I do like it. And some things that I do outside of being in school, working full time. I like to watch The Real Housewives, kind of just escape. And also like to run. I find it just, awesome to be outside and in nature. So that's how I escape. Um, I chose to pursue a degree in communication because I really think it matters how we speak to one another. I think it can really set up just the nature of relationships around us. Um, I do have several years of working as a supervisor at different organizations, Target, Starbucks. And then several years ago, I also did a internship at a national nonprofit. So I got to see um, sort of from that almost like volunteer perspective of watching upper level leadership since I was doing an unpaid internship. I got to see a lot of that organizational structure there. So my leadership style is democratic. I think like a lot of us. Um, I think it definitely aligned with what I presumed my leadership style to be before taking this survey. But a lot of the things that are associated with this leadership style, I think fit with my personality. In general, I like to be a part of discussions and accepting feedback from others before I ultimately make a decision. Um, and so I think that that definitely aligns with several of the components described in the survey. So, like I said before, I did definitely agree with the results of the survey. I think that one of the most important parts of this style of leadership is getting the subordinates that you're working with in the organization to really feel like with major decisions they have some sort of say and that they're not just there to do labor or anything like that. A current example of this that I deal with almost every day at Starbucks is that we have these out the window times, which I think other people who are in the SCAP program can relate to. So my role in regards to that at Starbucks is to deploy everyone that I'm working with into a role that's going to benefit us as a whole team as we try and reach these out the window times in the morning. So typically, as the supervisor running the floor during that time, I'll put people in roles that they enjoy doing because if they're in a role that they enjoy doing, typically they're going to be more bought in to really helping us as a team reach the final result, which is that low out the window drive-through time in the morning. So, a component of how I related my leadership style to what we learned about in chapter 7 specifically relates to, you know, how and what I communicate to the team. So, in terms of being open, I try and um, let them know essentially what I'm doing step by step when certain things come up. So, for example, like on a certain day, if we have callouts or attendance issues or maybe gaps in the schedule that went unnoticed, I will relay that to them and say, okay, so we have a call out from X time to X time. I'm working on trying to get someone in earlier, maybe calling in someone that's off today so that, we are still supported as the day goes forward. So it may seem like a small thing, but in my experience, just communicating those decisions and my sort of action plan with those things as a supervisor to the team makes them feel like they're a part of the process, makes them feel like I have their back and I'm not just throwing them to the wolves, so to speak. Also, like I say in the slide, essentially explaining the why of my decisions as a supervisor, I think, is impactful. So I also wanted to talk about briefly some of the ways that democratic leadership can break down if not executed efficiently. And I have seen this, particularly on days when we have a good amount of partners working on the floor, and I, as the supervisor, do not really make it clear what their role is and what their secondary role is. So maybe we're going through a little bit of a lull, there's some downtime, and they all sort of are, a little bit unclear of like, okay, I don't have anything to do in my role right now. Who should I help, or what should I do to sort of set up the rest of the day? That now that I have a chance, and if I haven't communicated that to them, then they're not going to know, and it's sort of just going to be this gray area of like, well, I could do this, or I might go help them, and it's just kind of not the most efficient way the floor could be running. And then the other component that could potentially trip someone up with democratic leadership, including myself, is that when we let being an empathetic leader, I think, go too far, that the people around us sort of take note and can tend to maybe take advantage of us in our empathetic ways. So I've seen this at Starbucks where, I give empathy towards someone who is late a couple of days because they just moved or because they're super tired from whatever they had going on the day before. And it just kind of snowballs and it doesn't, they are not course correcting because they've seen my empathy sort of allow them to keep being late, day after day after day. So finding that balance of being empathetic, but also holding like company standards, policy, all of that, I think is really, really important. So overall, I definitely found it super valuable to go over these things that really define democratic leadership. It made me think about my past work situations in which, I did or did not necessarily uphold the standards of democratic leadership. And then a quote that I particularly found relevant in regards to organizational leadership and also for society today is this one that I included from Martin Luther King Jr. A genuine leader is not a searcher for consensus, but a molder of consensus. And I think that really is timely and definitely made me think about my journey as I continue on as a supervisor in my role. How can I not just give direction and hope for a certain outcome, but really mold that process with others involved so that we can meet a common goal. I hope this finds you all well, and thanks for watching.